This happened a few months ago. I had been traveling for work as a sales rep. I was hitting motels across the country. They can be quirky but mostly fine. I liked the solitude. I checked into this motel on the edge of a small town. It was surrounded by empty fields and had a neon sign that flickered. Something about it felt off. On my second night, I was watching TV when I heard it. It was soft knocking on the shared wall. I paused, thinking it was just plumbing. Then it hit me. The knocks felt intentional. I shrugged it off and tried to focus on the TV. The next night, I noticed muddy footprints by my door. They looked fresh. I thought someone got lost, but they led straight to my room. My heart began to race. It wasn't just footprints. It was something about them that felt wrong. I stood there for a moment, my hand on the doorknob, but I finally opened the door. Nothing was there. Just emptiness. Later in the evening, I caught a shadow out of the corner of my eye. There was a figure near my window. I turned quickly, but it was gone. I told myself I was overtired. It was just my mind playing tricks on me. But the feeling stayed. I couldn't shake it. I kept thinking about those footprints, the shadow that vanished. As I lay there, I began to hear whispers. At first, they were faint, like a breeze carrying words. My skin prickled. It felt like the whispers called to me. I held my breath, unsure of what to do. I got up to check, but the sounds faded as I moved. I felt foolish, but I was also scared. That last night at the motel, I was on edge. Every creak, every gust of wind sent a chill down my spine. The knocks returned, louder this time, rhythmically tapping against the wall. I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to convince myself it was nothing. Just my imagination. I woke up the next morning feeling hollow. I packed my bag quickly. I wanted out. As I left, I noticed the front desk staff staring. They exchanged glances that made my heart race again. Did they know something? I got in my car and drove away, the gravel crunching under my tires. As I pulled out, I glanced back at the motel. I caught sight of something in the rearview mirror. A figure stood in my old room's window. I felt my pulse quicken. I turned to look again, but there was nothing. Just empty space. I've been back on the road since then, but I can't shake that motel. Those whispers, the footprints, I still don't understand. Did I experience something? Or was it all in my head? It creeps into my thoughts during quiet moments, leaving me uneasy. I thought leaving the motel would ease my mind, but it only amplified my feelings of dread. As I continued my work, I found myself driving through small towns, every motel reminding me of that night. The flickering lights, the isolation, and those unsettling whispers. I tried to convince myself they were just the remnants of a long trip, that my imagination was running wild. But it wasn't working. A week later, I found myself in another town. This rest stop felt different, newer, brighter, and welcoming. I wanted a fresh start. As I checked in, the clerk smiled warmly, even made small talk about the local spots to eat. It felt normal, but as I stood there, a nagging unease settled back in my chest. That night, I laid in bed with the TV on, trying to watch something mindless. As the minutes passed, my thoughts wandered back to the haunted silence of the previous motel. I fought to push them away, focusing on the show. Then a soft creaking sound broke through my concentration. I froze. There it was again, the unmistakable sound of floorboards bending. It sent chills down my spine. I got up cautiously, peeking through the peephole. Expecting to find nothing, I was shocked to see the hallway was empty. I took a deep breath, telling myself it was just the building settling. I settled back into bed, but sleep was elusive. The creaking continued, and this time, I could swear it was getting closer. Then came the noise. A low, muted thump echoed from above. It stopped abruptly, as if whatever made it was caught off guard. I tried reasoning with myself, maybe it was just someone moving furniture or maintenance. But that thought crawled under my skin. I grabbed my phone and texted a friend back home about it, half hoping they'd respond and distract me. As I typed, I caught movement in my peripheral vision. My heart raced as I looked toward the closet. The door was slightly ajar. I hadn't touched it since arriving. I squinted into the darkness, tension rising within me. Had I left it open? I reached for the doorknob, hesitating. When I saw it, a piece of paper tucked just inside. I pulled it out with shaky hands. It looked like a note, hastily scribbled. "Don't go back." The words were clear yet chilling. My instincts screamed to throw it away, to forget it, but I was drawn in. Who wrote this? Why don't they want me to go back? Just then, a loud bang came from above. I jumped, dropping the note. The noise pulled me from my thoughts. Was someone up there? I could hear voices now, muffled but unmistakable, rising and falling like a conversation. I held my breath, my ears straining to catch anything, but the voices faded as quickly as they appeared. I wasn't going back to sleep. I felt the urge to leave, but something pulled me to find out more. I knew I couldn't ignore it. Grabbing my jacket, I opened the door and stepped into the dim hallway, heart pounding. I needed answers. But then it hit me. Would I like the answers I found? As I walked toward the stairs, I felt the familiar weight of being drawn into something I didn't understand. The only thing I was sure of was that I had to keep moving, to uncover the truth, no matter where it led me. I took a deep breath and stepped into the hallway. The quiet felt heavy, almost suffocating. Each step toward the stairs echoed in the stillness, making me hyper-aware of every sound. As I reached the first step, the muffled voices from above returned, clearer this time. They felt like a siren call, both beckoning and warning. I hesitated. Had I imagined them? But then I heard a name mention my name. "Why is she here?" The words sliced through the darkness, making my stomach churn. I needed to know who was speaking. It was time to confront whatever was happening above me. The stairwell was dimly lit, with a flickering bulb casting shadows that danced along the walls. I steadied myself and moved upward, each step feeling more like stepping into a trap. I reached the second floor and noticed the dim light spilling from beneath the door at the end of the hall, a room that was supposed to be empty. Without thinking, I approached the door. The voices faded again, but curiosity propelled me forward. I placed my hand on the doorknob and turned, but it was locked. Frustration bubbled up inside me. I could just leave, go back to my room, and pretend I hadn't heard anything. But the note nagged at me, "Don't go back." I wasn't going to let fear dictate my choices. I knocked lightly, hardly making a sound. No response. I knocked again, more forcefully. "Hello?" My voice cracked, betraying my nerves. Still nothing. Just as I was about to turn away, I heard a shuffle inside, followed by a low whisper. "Who's there?" It was a female voice, cautious yet firm. I froze. "I'm just trying to understand." There was a pause, then I heard the unmistakable sound of someone moving closer to the door. "You shouldn't have come here. They've been watching you." My heart raced. "What do you mean?" "Who?" Before she could answer, I heard pounding footsteps coming down the hall behind me. I turned, instincts kicking in. A tall figure loomed at the steps, shrouded in shadows. My breath caught in my throat. I was trapped between the door and the advancing figure. "Get away from there!" The figure barked. The urgency in their voice sent a jolt of fear coursing through me. I didn't stick around to question their intentions. I bolted down the hallway, my pulse thundering in my ears. Suddenly, the door I had just knocked on swung open. The woman rushed out, urgency etched on her face. "Run! It's not safe here!" I barely registered her words before the figure turned toward us, eyes flashing with menace. I grabbed her hand, and we were off, sprinting down the stairs together as the chaos behind us erupted. The darkness threatened to swallow us whole, but we pushed forward. I had come looking for answers, but all I found was danger. I had no idea where this would lead, but one truth settled deep in my gut: I couldn't go back now. We ran as fast as we could, racing down the steps. It felt like we were being chased by shadows, the air thick with urgency. Heart pounding, I focused on the woman next to me, unsure who she was but desperate to trust her. "Where do we go?" I gasped, glancing back. The figure was still at the top, silhouetted against the pale light of the hallway. "Outside. We need to get outside," she shouted, pulling me toward the back exit. As she led the way, I spotted a flicker of movement low to the ground, a small shadow darting across the hall just ahead. The sight sent a chill down my spine. "What was that?" "No time," she urged, and I forced myself to keep moving. The door to the outside loomed, a beacon in the chaos. We burst through it and stumbled into the night, the cool air hitting me like a slap. I looked around, trying to get my bearings, but the dark stretched endlessly before us, creating a daunting abyss. "Which way?" I almost shouted. I was terrified, overwhelmed by everything that happened in such a short amount of time. "There's a woods nearby. We have to get there," she replied breathlessly, glancing back at the door we'd just exited as if expecting someone to follow. Before I could respond, there were loud bangs echoing from the building behind us. My heart sank. If they were coming, we had to move now. I nodded and we dashed toward the tree line, panic pushing us forward. Once we reached the edge of the woods, we stopped to catch our breath. I leaned against a tree, chest heaving. What happened back there? Who were they? The woman looked over her shoulder, scanning the area. "Names don't matter right now. They're after you. They think you know something." "Something? I don't know anything," I pleaded, frustration bubbling in my chest. "Just a note and strange voices. This is all too much." She eyed me, weighing her next words. "You were in the wrong place at the wrong time. Whatever they're looking for, it's connected to you now." I shook my head, trying to process it all. "But I didn't ask for this." "What do they want?" "That's what we need to figure out," she said with a sense of urgency, her body tense. "I found something, a file that had your name on it. They've been tracking you for weeks." I blinked, disbelief washing over me. "Why? What file?" Before she could answer, the underbrush rustled nearby. My stomach dropped as I realized someone was close. "We need to hide," I hissed. She grabbed my arm and we ducked behind a thick cluster of trees. My heart raced as more noises approached, the sound of footsteps crunching across fallen leaves. I held my breath, every instinct screaming at me to stay silent. Then we saw them. Two figures appeared on the path, flashlights cutting through the darkness. I recognized the tall figure from before, flanked by another person. They were searching, their faces hard and determined. "Split up," the tall figure commanded. "We cover more ground that way." The other figure nodded, and I felt the air sizzle with tension. As they moved away from us, I whispered, "What do we do now?" The woman looked at me, fear solidifying her resolve. "We wait. And then we move fast before they find us." That's when I saw it, a glint of metal half buried in the leaves just to our left. A small object, but it could be the answer to everything. I reached for it, my heart racing at what it might reveal. I grasped the small object, pulling it free from the underbrush. My fingers brushed off the dirt, revealing a silver keychain attached to a single, ornate key. Confusion flooded my mind. What was this doing here? "Do you recognize it?" the woman whispered, peering at the key. "No," I muttered, but something about it felt strangely familiar, like a distant memory I couldn't quite recall. "Do you think it's important?" Before I could respond, the sound of rustling leaves grew louder. I glanced up to see the second figure from before moving closer, flashlight sweeping the area. Panic surged through me. "Hide it!" I hissed, shoving the keychain into my pocket just as the beam of light swung our way. "Come out! We know you're here!" the tall figure shouted, his voice a sharp knife cutting through the silence. Holding my breath, I pressed myself against the rough bark of the tree, every muscle tense. The woman did the same, our eyes darting as we searched for an escape route. "Let us move," she whispered urgently. "I think that way is clear." I nodded, my heart pounding in my chest as I turned to follow her into the deeper shadows of the woods. Every instinct yelled at me to run, but part of me wanted to find out who these people were and what they wanted with me. We navigated through the trees, making our way further away from the path. I could still hear their voices behind us, growing fainter as we distanced ourselves. "What is so special about that key?" the woman asked as we stopped to catch our breath again, panting and trembling with adrenaline. I shrugged, still confused. "I have no idea. But they must think it means something. Did you ever go to a motel recently? Anywhere unusual?" Her question struck me like a bolt of lightning. "Yeah, I stayed at one last month while traveling. But it was just a regular place." "Did you notice anything strange?" As I thought back, I remembered a flash of an old chest by the reception, the way the manager kept glancing at me, almost suspiciously. There was this old wooden chest, but I didn't think much of it. I didn't open it. "Maybe you should have," she said, urgency returning to her voice. "That key could unlock something important." Before I could respond, the distant sound of footsteps echoed again, but this time they were mixed with another sound, whispers. They were coming our way. "Go!" I urged. We began to sprint again, the darkness swallowing us whole. Then, unexpectedly, a painful jolt shot through my foot. I stumbled, twisting to the side as I lost my balance. I barely caught myself against a tree, but the world spun around me. I gasped, trying to steady myself. "Simon, we can't stop. They're getting closer." From behind us, the whispers grew louder, chilling my blood. "We can sense you," one of them called out. "You need to come with us. Now." A wave of dread washed over me. Who were these people, and what did they want? I couldn't think, couldn't breathe. All I knew was that I had to get out of this nightmare. And now, whatever was hidden in my pocket was somehow part of it. "Let us get moving," she urged, pulling me to my feet. But just as we started running again, I heard something snap behind us, a branch breaking. I froze, heart racing. The voices were too close now, and the fear of discovery pressed down on me like a weight. They were coming. I pushed myself off the tree, adrenaline surging through me. We needed to move. The woman grabbed my arm, pulling me in the direction away from the noise. Her grip was firm, but my mind was still racing with confusion. "Who are they?" I huffed, trying to keep pace. "I don't know," she replied, her voice shaky. "But we need to keep quiet. They're hunting us." As we sprinted deeper into the woods, the whispers transformed into harsh whispers that echoed through the trees. "You can't hide forever. You will return to us." Every step felt heavier as branches whipped against my skin, an invisible force urging me to turn back. "What do they want?" "The key?" "I don't know," she said again, breathless. "But we can't let them catch us. They believe we have something they need." I stumbled again, catching myself before hitting the ground. "What if they take it? What if they find out where we are?" Her eyes darted around, scanning the shadows. "We have to find some place to hide, somewhere they won't think to look." Just ahead, an old stone structure loomed from the underbrush. It was partially collapsed, vines crawling over its surface. "There!" I pointed, my heart racing. We hurried towards it, slipping inside through a jagged opening. The air was damp and stale, sending shivers down my spine. We crouched low, trying to remain as silent as possible. The darkness enveloped us, but I could hear the faint crackling of leaves outside. I closed my eyes for a moment, listening. The whispers were closer now, echoing through the trees. "We know you're near. Just give us the key." Panic rose in my throat. I fished for the keychain in my pocket, feeling its cold metal against my fingers. My pulse thudded in my ears. What was so important about this key? "Do you think they want to hurt us?" I asked, trying to keep my voice low. "I don't know," she whispered, pressing her back against the stone wall. "But I don't want to find out." Suddenly, the whispers ceased. I exchanged a worried look with her. The silence was even more unnerving. Had they stopped? Were they waiting for us to make a move? Then, a shadow fell over the entrance. I held my breath, tension filling the air like storm clouds. A figure stepped into the light. It was the tall man, his flashlight piercing through the darkness. "Come out! You can't hide!" he called, his voice edged with something cold and menacing. I felt my stomach drop. In that moment, the fear was overwhelming, swirling around me like a deadly fog. "What do we do?" I whispered to the woman, my heart racing. "Stay calm. We wait." But as the footsteps grew closer, I wasn't sure how much longer we could stay hidden. I clenched the keychain tightly, feeling an unexpected surge of determination. Then everything went dark. When my eyes snapped open, it was to a complete void. I couldn't see a thing, and the silence was deafening. My heart raced as panic clawed at me. Where was I? I reached out, trying to find the woman. My fingers brushed against her arm. Relief flooded over me for just a moment. I squeezed her arm gently. "What happened?" I think he turned off the light," she whispered. "We need to move. While we still can." I could barely see her shadow now. I tried to stand, but my legs felt like jelly. I didn't know which way was out. "But where do we go?" "There's gotta be another exit," she said, her voice steadying. "This can't be the only way." Guided by her tone, I moved toward the back wall. My fingers skimmed over the rough surface, searching for a crack or an opening. The air felt colder here, like something was lurking just beyond the haze. Then I felt its soft breaths behind me. My skin prickled. I spun around, and in the low light, I could just make out the outline of the door we'd come through. I prayed it didn't swing open. "Keep searching," she urged, inching forward. I let out a shaky breath and continued my exploration. The space was cramped and claustrophobic. I heard faint rustling from behind the wall as she ran her hands over the stones, looking for a weakness. My heart hammered in my chest, each beat like a warning bell. "Wait! Did you hear that?" she murmured suddenly. I froze, listening intently. Sound seemed to echo inside the walls, but then there it was again, a soft scratching, almost like claws against stone. My throat went dry. "I think something's in here," I said, trying to keep my voice even. "Just focus," she replied. But I could hear the tremble in her voice too. Before I could respond, a beam of light sliced through the dark, illuminating the space opposite us, casting long shadows. The tall man stood framed in the doorway, the flashlight swirling like an angry ghost. "Found you," he said, grinning almost. The fear in my gut shot straight up to my throat. The woman's hand shot out, grabbing mine. "Run!" she cried, pulling me toward the back wall. But the light cut through, searching for us. We were exposed. "There!" I shouted, spotting a small crack near the base, just large enough for us to squeeze through. Without thinking, I shoved myself into the opening before I even saw if she followed. My heart raced as I wriggled through, every breath feeling tighter. Just as I emerged into the cool night air, I heard the tall man shout, "No! Get back!" I turned to find her stuck, halfway through the crack. "Don't let him catch you!" she screamed, panic marking her voice. "I can't leave you!" I yelled back, but I could see the dawning horror in her eyes as the light flared again. "Just go," she insisted. "You have to get the key, find out what it unlocks." She was right. The key was the only thing tying us to whatever this nightmare was. Clenching it in my pocket, I took a hesitant step forward. I could feel the tall man closing in, could feel the tension building as I ran into the dark. The night swallowed me, but her voice stayed with me. "You have to do this." That's when I saw it, a flicker of light beyond the trees, like hope peeking through despair. But could I reach it before they found me? The flickering light cut through the darkness, beckoning me like a lighthouse in a storm. I ran towards it, my feet pounding against the uneven ground. I had to get away, had to put distance between myself and whatever he was. I didn't dare look back. As I pushed through the underbrush, branches snagged at my clothes and scratched at my arms, but I didn't care. I could hear the tall man shouting in the distance, his voice echoing through the trees. I focused on the light ahead. Finally, I reached a clearing. The light was brighter now, glowing from a small cabin nestled among the trees. My heart leaped. Maybe I could find help inside. I dashed towards the door, throwing it open without hesitation. The interior was dim, just a few slivers of light seeping through the cracks in the boarded windows. It smelled of must and dust, like it hadn't been touched in years. My eyes adjusted quickly to the gloom. I stepped inside, cautious but desperate for safety. The first thing I noticed was the clutter, a chaotic mess of old furniture, rusty tools, and forgotten knickknacks scattered all over. "Hello?" I called, my voice shaking. No answer. Just silence, thick and eerie. I took a few steps forward, scanning the room. A heavy wooden table stood in the center, surrounded by mismatched chairs. A small oil lamp flickered on the windowsill, casting ghostly shadows on the walls. I approached it, hoping for some warmth in this cold place. That's when I saw something else, a series of photos hanging crookedly on the wall. I squinted at them, trying to make out the faces. They looked like ordinary people, smiling and posing in front of various landmarks. But something in their expressions felt off, almost too perfect. Why did they all seem to be staring at me? Suddenly, the light outside dimmed, and I could hear heavy footsteps approaching the cabin. My breath quickened. I had to hide. I ducked behind the table, praying I wasn't seen. The door swung open, and the tall man stepped inside. He was panting, looking wild and frantic. He scanned the room, his eyes landing on the same photos that had just chilled me to the bone. "No one escapes that easily," he muttered to himself. I bit my lip, pressing my back against the wall, desperate to stay unnoticed. My heart pounded so loudly I was sure he could hear it. This was my chance to get the key back, but I had to wait for him to leave. As he moved closer to the photos, I caught sight of something on the table. A glint of metal, another key. Panic shot through me. Was this one of his? Was it connected to that place we just escaped from? I had to know. I needed to take the risk. But then I remembered her words echoing in my mind. "You have to get the key, find out what it unlocks." The tall man turned, and in that second, I made my decision. I lunged for the key. Just as the man noticed, I seized it and dashed for the back door. "Stop!" he shouted, fury in his voice. I burst into the night, the cool air hitting me like a wave. I sprinted through the trees again, my feet flying as adrenaline surged. But now, I knew he wouldn't let me go that easily. The race was on, and with that key in my hand, I had no idea what I had just unleashed. Then I heard it, the low growl from the darkness, something far worse than the man. I was being hunted, and now I was running out of choices. The ground was uneven under my feet, roots and rocks jutting out like jagged teeth, eager to trip me. I didn't stop to catch my breath. The growl echoed again, closer this time, gnashing its teeth at my heels. Panic spurred me on. Somewhere in the distance, I heard the man shout again. His voice was a mix of anger and desperation. "Come back!" But I couldn't. I didn't even know where back led anymore. I clutched the key tightly, my fingers slipping against the cold metal. What did it open? Maybe it was my only hope. I veered to the left, desperate to put distance between the noise and me. The underbrush scratched at my legs, the darkness pressing in. I knew I couldn't keep running aimlessly. I needed a plan. The growl rose, a low rumble that made my skin crawl. It sounded massive, and with every heartbeat, it drew nearer. I ducked behind a tree, the bark rough against my back. My breathing was ragged, but I couldn't risk making a sound. I had to think. Somewhere deep within me, a flicker of determination ignited. I had the key. It had to mean something. But I was still trapped. I couldn't just stand here and wait to be caught. My eyes darted around, and that's when I saw a faint glimmer ahead, cutting through the darkness. Another house? Maybe it wouldn't be empty. I bolted toward it, my heart racing, praying it wasn't another trap. The light grew brighter, illuminating what looked like a main road leading to more cabins lined up in the shadows. There were distant voices, muffled and unintelligible. I slowed my pace, straining to hear. The growl came again, much closer now. It must have picked up my scent. I glanced back, terror flooding me as I spotted something massive moving through the trees. It wasn't just a creature. It was something else, twisted and unnatural. I didn't have time to process it. I raced toward that light, each step fueled by fear. As I reached the cabin, a sudden shadow loomed behind me. I flung open the door and stumbled inside, slamming it shut, my back pressed against the wood. The darkness swallowed me, but I could still see the silhouette of the creature outside, gnashing its teeth. I turned to take stock of my surroundings, my heart pounding in my ears. Another cabin. This one was cluttered with old furniture, like the first, but there were no photos here. Just dusty boxes and broken chairs. The light again caught my attention, a small lamp flickering in the corner. I needed to know if anyone was inside, if there was safety here. I crept closer, the key still clutched tightly in my hand. As I inched toward the lamp, something caught my eye. A rusted metal box sat on a table. Everything inside me screamed to leave it alone, but curiosity and desperation pushed me to reach for the latch. The moment my fingers brushed the cold metal, I heard a whisper behind me. "Open it," a voice said, soft and eerie. I spun around, heart racing. No one was there. Just the shadows, thick and suffocating. I thought about the key in my hand. Was this what I was meant to unlock? I hesitated, the growl outside rumbling once more. The tall man was getting closer, too. I blinked back, fear. Someone or something was watching me. I had to make a choice. Do I open the box or face whatever was lurking outside? As my hand trembled over the latch, I heard the door creaking behind me again. The man had found me. I felt the chaos in my chest rise. I didn't know if I wanted to open that box or if it would even make a difference. I just knew I was running out of time. I fumbled with the latch, desperation fueling my movements. With a sharp click, it opened, and I felt my breath catch as the lid creaked upward. Darkness loomed inside, but I could just make out a stack of papers, wilted notes, and an old photograph that lay on top. I hesitated, glancing back toward the door as I heard the tall man's heavy footsteps getting closer. "Open it," the whisper echoed again, insistent this time. I pushed aside my fear, plunging my hand into the box. I pulled out the photograph first. My hands shook as I flipped it over. There, written in spidery script, was my name. The picture showed a group of people, all smiling, but at the far end, obscured just enough, was a shadowy figure that made the hair on the back of my neck stand tall. I barely registered the details before I stuffed it back into the box. Next came the notes, and as I unfolded them with urgency, my eyes scanned the words frantically. They spoke of a key and a portal, a connection to the past and to the many. The ink blurred together, fraying at the edges as if the paper had lived through an eternity. My mind raced. What did this mean? Were they referring to the key I held? A loud crack resonated from the cabin door. The echoing sound rattled through my bones. He was here, searching. "I can feel you," he called out, voice low, almost teasing. I pressed my back against the wall, clutching the key tightly, my heart pounding in rhythm with his footsteps. As I continued scouring the contents of the box, I found a small metal charm, intricately shaped, a figure that looked like the one in the photograph but twisted, contorted. It matched the shadows that danced outside. I pocketed it, my instincts warning me to hold on to anything that might represent a chance of escape. The growl outside echoed once again, reverberating through the floorboards, sending another tremor of fear traveling up my spine. I had no time left. I had to move. I glanced back at the box, half-minded to shove it all inside and find a way out. But something stopped me. My eyes landed on the peculiar key again. Something felt off, almost alive in my palm. I remembered the woman urging me to figure out what it unlocked. It had to be significant. Could it stop whatever was hunting me? Just then, the door burst open, and the tall man's silhouette filled the entrance. Rage splashed across his face. "You think you're clever?" he snarled. "This all ends now." With a rush of adrenaline, I sprinted toward the window in the farthest corner, shoving it open just enough to squeeze through. The night air rushed in, filled with the scent of damp earth, each breath a reminder that freedom awaited. I leapt through, landing gracefully on the soft grass below. I stumbled for a second but quickly regained my footing, my heart slamming in my chest. As I turned to run, I felt a strange sting like air condensing behind me. The tall man's furious voice screamed into the night, and I glanced back. He was already moving, but there was something else, a dark shadow unfurling behind him, swirling as though it were alive, just waiting to lunge. The growl sounded again, overwhelming, mixed with a rattle of whispered threats. "You can't escape your fate," it called out, lurching forth. Instinctively, I turned south, the direction of the flickering light I had seen earlier. I charged through the trees, branches pinching my skin, until I burst into another clearing. It was not another cabin. It was a glade, shimmering and almost ethereal. Wisps of fog curled rhythmically around tall stones that stood like ancient sentinels. In a frenzied rush, I scanned the formations, each carved with strange symbols that mirrored the symbols from my notes. This had to be where it led the heart of whatever buried secrets awaited. As the chaos behind me escalated, I raced to the largest stone, placing the key against its surface. It fit snugly. Then silence. My ears drummed with the sound of my own breath, and I felt the air shimmer like heat rising off asphalt. The key glowed faintly, warmth flowing into my fingertips, then branching out to envelop me. The whispers around me crescendoed into a cacophony. "Unlock the past, set the many free." But the shadows were closing in, and the tall man was on the edge of the glade, eyes ablaze with fury. I dove forward, pushing the key into the slot and twisting it hard enough to feel my teeth rattle. The stone glimmered, a vibrant light erupting at its heart. "No!" he bellowed, but the ground trembled, opening beneath him. Swirling darkness consumed him, and an echoing wail filled the air as the shadows released him. I could barely process the chaos, feeling everything shatter around us. As the light pulsed, I felt something connect. A surge of ancient knowledge flooded my mind, revealing flickers of the past I barely recognized. Faces, places, echoes of lives intertwined with mine. The world oscillated, the whispers merging, singing in a chorus of once forgotten stories. The wave crashed over me, disorienting yet grounding, like coming home. Just as swiftly it ended. The light subsided, and the glade returned to its serene calmness, the chaos gone. Behind me lay remnants of a figure soaked in shadows, contorted and defeated. A ghost. I stood panting, the key slipping from my fingers and disappearing into the soil. I took a moment to breathe, absorbing the weight of what had just happened. Whatever that unlocking had done, it felt monumental, and yet what had I unleashed? The questions remained, looming like the fog around me, while the echoes of ancient wisdom settled deep within. But as far as I could tell, I had escaped. As I turned to leave the clearing, the weight of promise and possibility pressed into my chest. Would I ever be free of this? Would the whispers lead me back into the unknown? I moved forward into the night, uncertain, the glow of the past still thrumming in my veins. Wherever the road led me next, shadows would linger, hovering at the edges of my reality, haunting in their silence. And I knew I would never forget the tangled web of mysteries that had pulled me in.